UnitedWeStart, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Hi everybody, this is Detlev here of Wake News Radio, Wake News TV here from Switzerland, producing today's show on UnitedWeStart, the Roundtable discussion. As you know, we are doing this every second Saturday of a month, but in December we will take a break and we will be back in January then on the second Saturday, just for you to know already. That would be the 12th of January. All right, and with me are my friends, Michael here from Switzerland as well. Are you there, Michael? Well, he's muted currently, but Matt, are you there?
Hey, Detlev, how you doing? Great to be here. It's always a pleasure to hang out and discuss the various topics we do here at UnitedWeStart.
Yeah, fine. So, Michael,
I just want to give folks my website, nwodor.com, nwodor.com. Hop on over to the podcast archives page, and there's a library of information on the New World Order, who it is, what the agenda is of the New World Order, and there's a lot of medical information in there. I've interviewed some of the top naturopathic people on the planet. A lot of information there on how to stay healthy in this very toxic world. So go to nwodor.com and listen to some of those shows. It'll be very educational for you.
Right. And Michael, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I appreciate to be with you guys tonight, and I hope it's going to be a nice and interesting show.
Yeah, and you've got your own show here at Wake News Radio, Wake News TV. Why don't you elaborate?
Yeah, every last Tuesday of the month, I have a show where I describe and I talk about the situation on the world situation, political situation, on a more spiritual aspect and a spiritual point of view, and about the background between the three curtains, what's happening there with even in the astral sphere and in the etheric sphere, and what beings which are non-incarnate, what their goals is and their agenda. And when you look at the political situation, then it a higher sense what's going on. You truly understand the agendas, what the political system, where it's pulling the people.
Yeah. Well, your connection is not the best, although you're pretty close to me. But it's, that's the New World Order. Well, anyways, thank you, Michael. And also, if you're interested in our work here at Wake News, you can just have a look at wakenews.tv. That's our video channel. And you'll find not only German-speaking videos, but also English-speaking videos, which really creme de la creme. Yeah, if you want to talk in French. Okay, so and we also have our daily updates on our website, and obviously also twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays our live radio shows in German, though. Okay, but today's topic, I thought, overall topic should be something where we could elaborate on how could we do things better? How could we create a better world? Obviously, we cannot save the world. We have to go through all these evil things which are taking place, but we have our own tasks to participate and make the world a better place. Now, as Matt currently is at a fantastic place in the world, I would like to ask him to start giving some information on where he is currently and also on the subject of the recent midterm elections and the outcome out of that. Matt, what do you think?
Sure, yeah. So I'm in beautiful Hawaii today. I'm on the island of Oahu on the west coast of the island. I'm staying in a place called the Makaha Valley. It's a very lush valley. To my left is, like mountains and forest, and to my right is the ocean, and very tropical setting here. It's beautiful here in Hawaii, as most people know. I'm here to visit with family, and actually I'm going to see the Bruno Mars concert tomorrow, just as a additional bonus here. But yeah, it's a gorgeous place, though I'm not too pleased with the way Hawaii votes. They elected the senator, one of the dumbest people on the planet, I'm sure, during the Kavanaugh hearings back here last month. She stepped into the limelight as being one of the dumbest people on the planet. Her name is Mazie Hirono, and she was reelected last week for some unknown reason, and I'm kind of disappointed to the people of Hawaii. But she was the one that came out and said that because we have to believe accusers without evidence, and one is presumed guilty until proven innocent. She was the one that came out and said, yeah, men should just shut up and just take whatever accusations that are thrown in their direction, which is entirely stupid. We do have the rule of law in America, and in all fairness, we do subscribe to the fact that you need evidence to prove somebody has been guilty of some accusation. You can't just make an accusation and say and assume that person is guilty of some kind of wrongdoing. So she is as dumb as a sack of rocks. Another thing she did was she came out against President Trump immigration ban, where from select Middle Eastern countries, he said, well, we're not going to allow you in until we take a real good look at your background. And then if we find that you're not an ISIS terrorist or an Al-Qaeda terrorist, then you can come on in. And she came out and said, President Trump's laws against immigration is just wrong. Well, apparently she had never heard of the United States Constitution, never read it. That's how stupid she is, and doesn't know about Title VIII, where it does in fact say that the president has the right to limit who comes into the country. He has that constitutional authority. They wrote that into the Constitution over 200 years ago, and that's how stupid she is. But other than that, Hawaii's a great place to live. I mean, great place to visit anyway. At least on this island, Oahu, it's becoming overpopulated. Traffic's horrible. Fields that used to be pineapple plantation fields and sugarcane fields are now just endless tracts of houses, and they have this light rail system they've been trying to build for like 10 years now. So far, it costs $13 billion, and it's not even halfway completed. A lot of engineering problems. It's just somebody made a lot of money soaking the Hawaiian taxpayer to create this boondoggle of a light rail system, and I doubt really it's going to ever be completed. And the government is blocking any type of investigation into where the money went and how it was spent and who made the money. It's pretty corrupt. So I guess that's a basic indicator of the rest of America. But yeah, so I'm in Hawaii for a few days, and it's real nice here. And we want to get to talking about the midterms.
Yeah, please give us an input on your views on how the election went in total U.S. as far as you can, and the outcome, and what is basically who really profited from these midterm elections.
Right. Well, um, I thought the Republican Party should have held the House. They held the Senate in this uh, midterm election, but not the House. And there's multiple reasons I think for that. One, I think, is because there's a lot of vote fraud. We don't know how many illegal aliens vote in this country because in a lot of states they suppress the identification of voters, saying that it's racist to suggest that people should present identification when they vote, as if voting is a race-based issue. It doesn't make sense, but that's the Democrat position. We lost there, and if you look at the map of the United States and how they voted in the House races, you can see right along the West Coast is all blue, all the way up into Washington, and I attribute that to one being the West Coast. People are just radical liberals to begin with. I mean, where I live in Oregon, Portland, you see some of the most radical leftists people you ever saw. But I believe it's because the illegal immigrants have infiltrated the west coast of the United States and traveled up the I-5 corridor, which is a highway that runs from California all the way to Seattle, to Canada, basically. And so all those illegal immigrants now vote on the west coast, and that's why it's all blue in the west coast. And you see it blue in places like Arizona, some lower parts of Texas, along the eastern seaboard, along the around the New York, New England area, and some over in the Florida area. So I'm thinking those are strong beds of immigrant populations from the Hispanic world, and the rest of the country is red. So there's just a very small minority of people deciding how these house races go. One. Two, I think there's a lot of election fraud. You look at what's happening right now in Florida, where in Broward County, there's blatant election fraud, and Governor Rick Scott, who apparently has won his seat in the Senate, has sued the Broward County Elections Office because of massive vote fraud there. So I think the Democrats really stole a lot of House seats based on fraud, but and hopefully they can expose some of that. But I think too, the censorship from Google, Facebook, Twitter, banning conservative platform voices like Alex Jones and David Knight and a whole host of other conservative people, banning them from their platforms might have helped sway the election towards the Democrats, because people of conservative voices couldn't share their information. So I'm thinking those factors combined helped the Democrats regain control of the House. Now, if the election fraud in Arizona and Florida are exposed and they can't steal those 2 Senate seats, then the Republicans will hold the Senate. And so what you'll have in America is a stalemate for the next 2 years, which isn't a bad thing, really, when you think about it. The Democrats have to be forced to work with President Trump and the Senate in order to get any kind of legislation they want passed. And if they don't play nice, it won't get past the Senate. And if it does get past the Senate, then President Trump can always veto any legislation that's not suitable to his liking. So they'll have to play ball, or there'll be gridlock for the next 2 years. The Democrats, I thought, though, overplayed their hand during the Kavanaugh investigation, and with all these mobs that they are rent-a-mobs that they inspire, and actual mobs that go out and bully people and vandalize and break things and set fires to things. They got away with a lot of that, a lot of it, and I don't know. It just shows that people, one, don't care about those sort of things, or we just got tremendous vote fraud here in America, and that's how they got back in power. But I don't know. It's shameful that we have that in America. It's shameful that the discourse has become so uncivil that it leads to violence. And I don't know. I think the outcome could have been better for President Trump and his agenda to build the wall and beef up our immigration laws. But if gridlock is what we have for the next 2 years, it's better than Democrats having power throughout Congress. I don't know. I think it's not so horrid an outcome that we should just give up hope. But it could have been better.
Yeah, there had been quite a few expectations by Trump supporters that he would gain some more momentum from his work, which he's done so far. At least he has tried to keep his promises, his election promises. I'm not so sure whether people acknowledge this. What's your point of view?
He's just one guy. He's not able to control everything. He has to work with some really nasty folks in the intelligence agencies, some really nasty folks from our so-called allies, like the Israelis. They have such a sway over our political system here in America, or the British. I still think a large part or power of the New World Order comes from the British Crown and trickles on down, and through the British banking system trickles on down to America. So I think there's that he has to fight. So people like Mike Rivero says that President Trump is a weak president. I don't think so. I think he's a smart guy, and he's trying to get things done as best he can and to carry out his agenda. But he's only one guy. He can't do it all himself. So that's why, we were hoping for a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate. But even though that was the case for the last 2 years, you've got people like Paul Ryan blocking any kind of real meaningful legislation that Trump wanted to get through. He wouldn't push for the border wall. I mean, Paul Ryan is a rhino, basically Republican in name only. He's working for the deep state, so he can only push so much of his agenda so far. And he was blindsided when he appointed Jeff Sessions as Attorney General, when Jeff Sessions immediately after being sworn in recused himself from this phony Russia investigation by Bob Mueller, saying there was collusion between Trump and the Russians to steal the election from Hillary. And so Jeff Sessions turns out to be another operative of the New World Order, blocking any kind of real investigation into Hillary. And that's why, when Trump fired Sessions this week, there was immediate mass protests around the country to protest against his firing, because the New World Order knows that if Jeff Sessions is not there to gatekeep any real investigations that Trump wants to do and pursue this phony hoax of Russia collusion, that whole cover might get ripped off and exposed. So I think people like Maxine Waters, that she's another stupid human being. She keeps up until a couple weeks before the election, because they told her to shut up, was saying we're going to impeach Trump, we're going to impeach Trump, we're going to impeach Trump. And so I think what Trump can do now is that he's fired Sessions and got at least an acting attorney general who has maybe more favorable views towards Trump. They're afraid that what he can do, what he could do is, if they try to impeach him or go into really wild investigations into false allegations like this Russia collusion, he could then start going after Hillary and exposing that whole corrupt server system that she had, that she was probably selling state secrets for contributions into the Clinton Foundation, laundering the money through there. He could use that as a weapon against him. So it'll be an interesting next 2 years to see how that plays out. I think, I don't know, if the Democrats were smart, they would not go after Trump if they were smart. But if they aren't, then he can use that in his back pocket to go after Hillary and expose that whole corrupt system and how they went after him with the wiretaps and spying on his campaign. If they're not, which they're not, the Democrats are really stupid people because they believe in things like the New World Order. They'll probably go after him, and we'll see a lot of chaos in Washington and America, and it'll further divide the country, as we talked about last month. There is a civil war going on in America, and it's not grassroots based. It's not people on the ground saying, yes, we need to overthrow the government and get back to the New World Order. It's all being fueled by the corporate-controlled media and these Democrats who are, supportive of the New World Order, and they just want to go back to this globalist utopia that they've been trying to build, and it's going to further divide the country in the next 2 years, I believe.
That's amazing. Good to hear what your point of view is concerning the civil war. Now, there are these sealed indictments. Do you think there will be some progress concerning these indictments? Will they be publicized? Will something happen?
I don't really think there's these sealed indictments. I keep hearing about them, but I never see any evidence to support the fact that they exist. I think that might be a red herring thrown out into the independent media systems to get us to chase down, false trails, trying to divert us from actually looking at what's going on. I don't think there's anything to the sealed indictments. I don't think anything's going to happen with that, if there even are there.
Okay. Well, that's also good to know.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Detlev. You're breaking up.
Yeah, am I breaking up?
Yeah, you were breaking up there for a minute. You have to get into your mic, I think.
Yeah, well, we have very difficult communication here once in a while. Okay, Michael, is there anything you want to add or ask Matt?
Yeah, well, basically, I'm very skeptical about the system, I don't believe in any good of the system. Whoever the president is, if a president would be too good, he would be Dallas for the people, because there's a war against the system, against the people. And the system wants to enslave the people like you and me. And knowing about secret societies and the occult connections, what they have, I cannot imagine that anything good comes out of them. So I'm very skeptical, even whoever the president may be. We know with Trump that he has connections with the Rothschild, that they helped him out when he was when he had to fight about bankruptcy, and they helped him out 2-3 times. So there is interconnections which make me, I have a difficult, I'm a complete anarchist, basically. And I believe only when you when people in cooperation work with each other and organize their lives that way, that something good can come about, but not with these big infrastructures and this big, I call it the infrastructure of evil, which rules this world through money and through other things, it doesn't solve the people's rights and the thriving for the people. That's my basic view on this.
Yeah, so that's a general outlook. Yeah, I share your thoughts as well. I'm also an anarchist, if you want to, in the right sense, please. But nevertheless, I mean, at least Trump has managed to keep the Senate, so he can sort of continue. We'll see what will happen during the next 2 years, which he still is getting to do. And is there any Democrat, feasible as a president candidate? Matt, what do you think?
I don't see anybody as a front runner right now that could take on Trump. Oprah Winfrey, though, if she ran, I think would give Trump a run for his money because she's charismatic, she's well liked by Americans. She might have a chance, but Trump, he's pretty shrewd, and he, I think, could, take on anybody that the Democrats could throw at him right now. And you look at some of the names that they're throwing out there, Joe Biden, and who else were they suggesting? That new guy from Texas, Betos, who lost his Senate race against Ted Cruz. They might throw him against Trump, which he would lose. I'd love to see someone like Maxine Waters run for president. That would be a riot. I think, though, the next thing we need to watch for that's going to allow Trump to help America move in a better direction is the Supreme Court. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is something like 85 years old. She had an incident this past week where she fell in her office, broke 3 ribs, and they're reporting that her cancer that was in remission is now back. So she'll probably have to step down in the near future as a Supreme Court justice. And then you'll see, again, this whole circus of the Democrats trying to prevent Trump from putting somebody of conservative mind, a constitutionalist, on the Supreme Court. They're going to further embarrass themselves with false allegations. I'd like to see him appoint a female this time to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. One, because I think it would be pretty hard for them to come up with some kind of sexual assault allegation against a female justice or judge. 35 years after the fact, saying, he tried to rape me. I have no proof. Here's the names of some people, so you go investigate those people. Well, we don't know who she is. We were never there. They have no evidence against that. If he comes up with a really good nominee, like, say, Jeanine Pirro, the Fox commentator, she would be excellent, I think, as a Supreme Court justice. Try to come up against her. She's got a lot of backbone, and she'll fight you. And if they come up, he nominates someone like her, Democrats are going to have a tough time trying to destroy her. But mark my words, they will. Trump may have his background with financial dealings with the Rothschilds, and have a lot of Chase or who is that financial backers that are part of the cabal. But from what I've seen of his agenda, he really is outside of an outsider. He really is an outsider, because if he wasn't, he wouldn't be going after this migrant caravan that is for migrant caravans making their way towards the United States and trying to secure the border. And he really did come up with a tax rate for the middle class, which actually added money to the pocketbooks of the average American people, even though they say, oh, it's a tax break for the rich. That's the lie that they want you to believe. He has helped the economy to move in a positive direction in a strong way. I see a lot more help wanted signs around everywhere I go now. People are hiring like crazy. Amazon was hiring 1,500 people in Portland just recently, and they said you don't need a resume, just come in, and as long as you can breathe, basically, we're going to hire you. So he has helped turn the economy around. So I'm not in agreement with Michael there that Trump is compromised by the New World Order. Not fully compromised anyway. I'm sure he has to deal with, the folks like Henry Kissinger and John Bolton's and the Benjamin Netanyahu's to help color his presidency. But he's not totally in compliance like a George Bush would have been, or a Hillary Clinton, or a Barack Obama.
Very true. I think so as well. I guess you're right there. Now, for the future. So you are actually seeing more civil war going on, especially, after the defeat of the Democrats in getting the Senate control. There will be more civil war coming on, you think?
I don't see it stopping. I think it's, like I said, being fueled by like the George Soroses of the world. Look at two great examples. Right after the election, there's a Fox News commentator, Tucker Carlson. This happened just this week. Criminals went to his house, broke his front door, vandalized his driveway, and started shouting and intimidating his wife, saying, "We know where you sleep at night," threatening with pipe bombs. And he's just a TV commentator. Now they're going after folks at their homes. And this is after they won the House. And so that's one indication there. And then you had something like 500 protests this week over the fact that Jeff Sessions was fired by the president. And they had ready-made beautiful signs saying, to protest Sessions' firing. And so it's being, grassroots folks would have little cardboard signs saying, impeach Trump, or, don't fire Sessions, or something like that, that you take some crayons or some ink markers and put it on a piece of cardboard and hold signs like that out at a protest. Not these printed ones where somebody spent thousands of dollars to print up this beautiful signs. Somebody's put money into it. So I think we'll continue to see the far left socialists, and that's what they want in America. They come right out and say, yes, we want socialism, which I don't think that they know what it is, but they just say that. They want socialism here, and I think they're going to turn up the heat. Everything they can do to create chaos in America, they'll try. I don't think it's going to stop. And if Trump gets reelected in 2020, it's going to keep getting worse. And at some point, rational people in America will have to stand up and say, no, this is too crazy. I thought we had reached the point already, but apparently not. Because we gave the Democrats back control of the House. But I think it's going to get worse.
Yeah, well, we don't know whether the counting of the votes in the recent elections are really true. You've mentioned there's voter fraud, election fraud, most probably taking place everywhere.
Right. Well, was it Stalin who said, "I care not who the people vote for. It matters not who the people vote for. It matters who counts the votes."
Right. Exactly. That's it.
Right.
But nevertheless, we cannot just depend on the structures or the system as it runs today. That's what Michael most probably meant by just saying he's an anarchist. And I'm also thinking of that the current system isn't really giving us the right things which we would like to have. So our idea is always, how can we improve? How can we create a better world? What are your ideas, Matt, on the U.S.? What would you think would be the right thing for the people living in America? What would be the right thing to do? What is a way to create a better world, at least starting in the U.S. or say globally? You're free to say anything about it. So what are your
Well,
ideas?
first, I don't think anarchism is a good solution for how a society should run itself. You need some kind of structure for a civilized society to conduct itself. Everyone for themselves is chaotic, and you'll have factionalism built out of who's got the biggest club. It goes back to the Stone Age, where if I've got a bigger club than you, I can take your wife and your food. So I don't think anarchism is a solution, really. I believe in populism, where people, the populace, controls how a structured entity, say the government, can be managed. And I think that's what the framers of the Constitution had in mind, where you vote for a representative to a body that then can, make rules that we are amenable to and how we should conduct ourselves to. And I think that's what the Constitution delivered, okay, for at least a while, until we had, at least to the early 1900s, when we, got the, what was it, the 16th Amendment, where we got the Federal Reserve. So what could improve? I think what real solutions we could implement. Unrealistically, I would like to see we nationalized the monetary system in America again, where the government, not the Federal Reserve, which is a private bank, as we all know, prints the money. That way, we are not in debt to a private entity like the Federal Reserve, owned by the Rothschilds and the British Crown and the likes. I think if we could do that, that would be the single most important step in improving how America operates, in fact, if not the world. Because America has, like I mentioned last month, fleets of nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. We can deliver hell to your doorstep via those aircraft carriers any place on the planet within, a short period of time. Fail of those, we've got nuclear-powered submarines that can launch missiles from anywhere on the planet and, melt down entire cities. So if America kind of holds the world hostage with military threat like that. So if we do away with that monetary system and nationalize it, like Kennedy wanted to do, and Lincoln wanted to do, and Jackson wanted to do, which all were assassinated except for Jackson. He survived. That will go a long way into the globalist New World Order agenda being stopped worldwide. You stop it here in America, which, because of America's influence, then the rest of the world has a chance. Where I think it may come to that many of the world's countries will stop using the dollar as a reserve currency and stop trading oil with dollars. I think if that comes to pass, then the American economy might collapse because of just the nature of how much debt we're in to the Federal Reserve. If that comes about, then we can start over, and the world might have a shot at improvement then. But I think the first most important thing to do is to get rid of the fiat currency of the private banking system. And if you could do that worldwide, you give power back to the people, because then their earnings will be worth something and backed by some kind of standard, where it is not now. And it's just our belief in that money is worth something. It has value that keeps the world propped up and commerce going. So to me, that would be the first thing we do.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Michael, why don't you give us your point of view on what do you think could help us creating a better world?
Well, I think Matt misunderstood when I explained anarchism, because anarchism has to be defined. When I talk about anarchism, I mean an ethical spiritual, I mean, anarchism based on ethical spiritual rules. That means everybody should abide to those rules. And then there is basically a positive way of anarchism. And it is actually, God is the biggest anarchist in the world, in the cosmos, because he gave us the free will. I mean, you can abuse and abuse it. And when you look in human history, wherever there was the system of government, of rulers or masters and slaves, always it has been abused. There were always the few that wanted to rule over the majority of people. There always were a few people that want to have special rights. They wanted to be higher than the other ones. And God has created man equal, basically. So I don't think this whole ruling and government system will work. It has always brought us war. And what the people want in this world, to be happy, to live a happy life, to have basic physical needs, access to basic physical needs. They want to have a fair deal with each other. They want to have, they want to thrive spiritually and physically, and as I said, to live a decent life where they respect each other. And so far, when I look over the history, I don't see an example where this has happened, where there was this horizontal kind of pyramid rule. So I cannot. I look back in history, I don't see it. Simply as that. And when I look in capitalism and socialism, for me, there are two evils, like Ahriman and Lucifer, like the Lucifer and Satan. That is the same thing. Basically, we have to become more human, and every human soul has their needs, and we have any structure that we have has to have put the human being in the middle of its attention. If that doesn't happen, I don't see any positive outcome.
So let me ask you, Michael, in an anarchist kind of world, you're saying that we should not have any kind of governmental structure?
Well, we should have a structure, but it should be based on like the old Greeks had. They were sitting together, and the wise people were sitting together and deciding what should be done. But everybody should have the right to put their opinion down. It should be like a free kind of input of information. And then later the people should decide what is the wisest with no special interest.
Okay, so let's take America as an example. Okay, who decides who the wise people are? How do you run a country like America? We've got this vast landmass with 350 million people occupying it. How do you select the people to represent you, or who decides who the smart people are that should be in charge? How do you do that in an anarchist world?
Well, I would say everybody should go on the smaller circles. Like even countries like Switzerland is too big. I mean, it's a very small country, but it's too big to. I think there should be independent communities that all oversee each other, and there should be a wise kind of how should I say, a meeting of the responsible people where they decide on their community. I would say it should be a county community, as big as a county. That I can imagine it could work. But on a bigger scale, you have always the power structure, which is too anonymous. You don't know the people, and when you don't know the people, then comes this influence of these secret societies, and they push in different directions. But when you have small counties, so to speak, where everybody knows each other, then I think there could be a positive outcome of this system that I propose.
So we do have structures like that here. You have city governments, and people are allowed to vote for their city representatives and their mayor. And then you have a larger governmental structure outside of that, which is the county. So it is a collection of people average people can vote for their representatives at the county level, and we determine who the smart ones are representing us there as opposed to the elections. Then we have a bigger governmental structure around that, which is the state government, and we're allowed to vote for representatives there. Those are the smart people that we choose to represent us. I mean, we've got to have a means of figure out who these smart people are. We don't always pick the correct ones, I think, because people are swayed by different influences, and there's a lot of money and corruption there. But to answer your point, that's what we already have in place.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Matt and Michael. But as you said, Matt, the main issue is the fiat money system in the hands of the few, which are taking only care of themselves and are not thinking of you and me and humans. So that's the misleading of the current system, and that's the evil of the system, is this corruption possibility. But if the money issuing would be part of us, because we are in the end, we are the state. Everybody is the state, or the Americans are the state owners, if you wish, of the U.S. Then most of the evil would go away, because there's no reason anymore for corruption, because everybody is aiming to basically do the best for the fellow human being. If that would be the parameter, the ethical parameter, then everything would work a lot better, don't you think?
Yes, I don't think you'll ever get rid of corruption, because there's always going to be people who want to take advantage of a system to make their lives better for themselves and cheat the system. There'll always be cheaters. That's just the nature of man. It's nice to think that we could all be good human beings and respect each other and conduct ourselves in a righteous sort of way, but that's never going to happen. So I think taking the monetary system back to the national level will stop the influence of the financial system from corrupting government officials at least to a lesser degree, right? But you'll always, like I said, you'll always have that kind of corruption. So to me, like I was saying, to take away the monetary system from these private bankers is the first real step in humanity recovering its sovereignty from these oppressive institutions.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it's we can only proceed or get forward if we get to a consciousness level where you identify that it is not worthwhile to be criminal, to be corrupt, to take advantage of the other human being. Because in the end, this is counterproductive. And even if you are using corruption to build your own wealth and so forth, this will be identified by your fellow human beings after a while, and then you will be punished somehow. I mean, there will be laws. There have to be laws, or there have to be regulations, or whatever. So corruption is definitely one thing which has to be identified by those regulations. I mean, it's that is of course very necessary. So there have to be structures. I'm also of the opinion that there have to be structures. But you and I, we have to be part of the new system which has to be developed. And currently we are not, because your vote, which currently is taking place, your voting is being compromised. It is being corrupted, or it's being falsified, or there are criminal activities taking place, and that's because there is just a few people, as you said, who are governing the fiat system in order to control the world, to profit from that. And that's the major evil. I see that as well. I mean, the fiat system is definitely obsolete.
Right, and you're right. We have to have rules in place so that corrupt people are identified and made to pay for their corruption, which we do have supposedly in the United States justice system, where nobody is above the law. But you look at Hillary Clinton and the Bushes, you know, they're one of their primary source of the crime syndicate, or primary example of the crime syndicate that is the New World Order in America. And you look at the FBI, the Justice Department, they're corrupt. They won't prosecute Hillary. They won't go after the real crimes that occur. So we have to have, you know, a way to I don't know, get rid of those folks. And I don't know. I don't have the answer on how to do that, because they're embedded. They're entrenched.
Yeah, that's an issue. I mean, we have that over here in Europe as well. I mean, this is the same thing worldwide. So, you know, we are under the terror ruling of those guys. But you know, the only way, as I always say, also on my shows, which I do here in German, the first step is to identify what the issues are, and this is only possible by getting conscious. If you're not conscious, you cannot identify the issues or the problems. And then there's lots of information available everywhere. We're doing our part as well to inform people. But the solution issues, they are being, you know, they are difficult. And that's the topic which I wanted to touch during today's show. Are there ways to improve? Are there ways to create a better world? And definitely it is difficult, because there are a few heads in the world who are governing us. And what can we do in order to get rid of them? And there are definitely many ways, and you know, but if that's the problem, Michael, what's your point of view?
Yeah, well, see, every government in this whole world has been infiltrated by tyrants of the secret societies, and they put their chaps in the position where they have power. So that is you cannot win the game. So we have to start anew. That is always my concept that I'm saying, like it was in the olden times, when they created cities. They said, okay, I'm a blacksmith, I do this one. I'm a mason, I do this one. I'm pretty good at this. And then once or twice a week they met, and they were discussing issues, you know, on common life, what to do and what not to do, what to produce and what not to produce, and what they need. And you know, it's like everybody has to participate on an equal share of this issue, because otherwise community life is not possible. We should not delegate all these things. That is a basic mistake. We should create small units where we don't have this delegation issue, because then we know who is in control, and then we have responsible people. These people are not responsible. They can shit on the table and somebody else has to remove it. So if everybody is responsible, if the blacksmith in that community does nonsense, you can tell, hey, Joe, well, what happened here? I mean, you're responsible. You have to clean up that shit that you did, you know, over there. And that is not being practiced. So these politicians have no responsibility of their deeds. And that is basically a system with the Illuminati has created. They become anonymous. They use their power to create a big disorder, and later the rest of the community has to clean up the shit. And that I find a very, very systematic error. You know, what causes a lot of evil in this world today.
I see your point that we have to be involved, but but the example you give is just a little too simplistic. Back in the day when we had blacksmiths and a cobbler and a baker in a small community where you're pretty much a warrior and you're limited to your travel based on how fast you could walk or how what kind of horse you had. That might work in a small kind of idealistic setting back in those days. But we have an international community now where we can talk to each other. You are in Switzerland, I'm here in Hawaii. So that kind of model doesn't work well, I don't think. But I think Detlev's point of waking people up, having people engaged, is I think where it really starts, and that's why we keep doing our share with UnitedWeStrike and now UnitedWeStart. We're doing our part in trying to educate people. I just had a conversation last week with my bassist or ex-bassist in my band, and just before the election, and we were talking about politics, and he says, "I bleed blue," meaning he supports Democrats wholeheartedly. So when I pressed him on why he bled blue, he says, "Well, because Trump's a racist." So then I asked him, "Well, what kinds of things has Trump done or said to qualify himself as being a racist?" And he couldn't answer that. He says, "I don't know. I don't watch, I don't pay attention to that. So how can you say that Trump's a racist if you don't have examples and can point to examples that why you have an opinion like that?" So he says, "Well, Trump's an idiot." I said, "Okay, well, I think, if you can tell me where he's an idiot." "Well, I don't know. I just know that he says stupid things. So what stupid things has he said that qualifies him to be an idiot?" "Well, I don't know." And I rebutted him by saying, "Look, I think Trump must be a pretty smart guy because he became a billionaire and he worked through the capitalist system to become a billionaire. He has his own private jet, which I think is like a Boeing 757 or 767, and I told him, where's your private jet? Where's your $1 billion?" He said, "Well, I don't know, and I said, "Well, I think he's got a better resume than you do. So who would be the idiot then? Trump or you? Where's your jet plane?" We have people like that in the world who just parrot what they're told, and they believe what they're told just because they want to believe they're part of society and are engaged. And we have too many people like that who don't know what's really going on in the world. And to be part of the crowd, they just regurgitate the stuff that they hear other people say, be it on the radio, on the TV, in print, on the internet. And when you're on the internet, and conservative opinions are being suppressed or attacked as being racist. And that's the big rallying cry for the Democrats now in America. Everybody's a racist, and white men are the problem in America. We have to get rid of white men, and they actually say these things on TV too. It's disgusting. People, when you got dumb, stupid people like that who don't have the intelligence to have rational thought, I think we're doomed. I think we're just doomed. I think we do what we do, trying to wake people up, and that's all we can do. Outside of that, really, there's too much against us to us to reverse course.
Absolutely. Now, Matt and Michael, we are heading towards the break on top of the hour. Maybe we can go from there in the next hour and try to gather a few more ideas and ways to describe our ideas of how we can create a better world. Why not? I mean, this is we usually don't have too much time talking about philosophically about those things. Yeah, okay, so we will be in a break now, and we'll see you after that, after this little music break. So stay tuned. We are right back. Thank you.
UnitedWeStart. We explore the New World Order, finance, science, health, and other subjects in our group discussions of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT. Looking forward to meeting you.
Hi everybody. So we are back here in our second hour of today's UnitedWeStart Roundtable discussion. As you noticed, we are three of us. Usually we have Alan with us, but Alan, sometimes Stephen, but they had another appointment, so they couldn't make it. So it's today it's Matt from Hawaii, who's currently spending his time in Hawaii, and Michael, also here from Switzerland, and myself. So our topic in the first hour was to cover a little bit the outcome of the midterm election in the US, and then we talked about how we could participate, or how would we imagine to create a better world out of the mess we are in currently, and which is not satisfying to most of us. And and I thought we could continue this coming hour to further discuss possibilities of change, of real change. Change was a word here of Obama, but he didn't change to the good. He changed to the bad, or to the worse. What's your point of view? I mean, this word change. What did this really mean for the U.S. and the world, Matt? Hi, Matt?
Sorry, hey, yeah, so are you talking about what Obama did for the United States? The kind of change he created?
He misused the word change, and everybody thought he would change things to the better. But in reality, he basically changed it to the worse. Isn't it?
Well, it depends on whose side of the fence you're on, right? If you're globalist, he did a great job. He changed everything just fine. I mean, at least he didn't get us into, a major world war, which they want. But so he changed America more towards socialism, as far as I'm concerned. Moved try to put us under these trade agreements and climate agreements that would have like the TPP. He was trying to get us into that Trans-Pacific Partnership, the Paris Climate Accord. He was trying to get us into that, which Trump put a stop to, by the way, which goes to show you that he's not a globalist. Goes to show you he's not part of the New World Order, right? So the kind of change that Obama brought about was more to geared towards socialism and more geared towards globalism. And so if you're an average American citizen, you're worse off because of that. And he helped really to continue the export of American jobs to overseas countries. And he kept telling us, well, those jobs will never come back. So you just have to get used to dealing with less. You just have to get used to more poverty and having less in your life. And that's the kind of change he brought. Hope and change for the Democrats and the people who followed him like lemmings to the slaughter. Was all about the stupid people, like I mentioned in the last hour, following because they like being part of a crowd. People like being part of a group. They have like being a fan of a sports team or something. They like being part of that group. And if you're a stupid person, you can't think for yourself, then you will follow people like Barack Obama or a Hillary Clinton. And a thinking person would say, no, well, what these guys are doing is counterproductive to humanity. Let's stop following them. Well, to your point, Detlev, of how we can make the world a better place, I say we still work on educating these stupid people.
Yeah, I agree. But, a solution to this current prescribed situation would be to find an idea, or let's say a new crowd or a new group they could follow if they would agree upon the solution or the idea or the way we will go. So basically, we are lacking the right method to bring truth and consciousness to the people.
Yes, I agree. I would 100% agree with you there. But as a lone individual, Trump, I go back to him, he's helping to do that. If you ever watch his rallies that he does for elections, and he did a bunch of them in this past month or two, he really is a different kind of leader than America has seen for generations. I was paying attention so much when Ronald Reagan was president, because I was still fairly young. But I guess Ronald Reagan, they compare him to Ronald Reagan, but I think he's even further a further populist than even Ronald Reagan was, because he proclaimed just a little bit ago, and then the press went after him for being a racist, for saying he was a nationalist. And what he meant by that, what Trump meant by him being a nationalist, is that he wants to support his nation first before the rest of the world. He wants to take care of America first before the globe. Where he makes he said, there's nationalism and there's globalism, and he's a nationalist. And so I think he's part of that solution, and people are waking up. And he is one of a Pied Piper, in effect, so that people can follow him. But you're right, Detlev. I think we do need a third party, not Republicans, not Democrats. How about we call it something different, the American Party or something, and we can do that. If we could do that worldwide, and the people bypass the corrupt media systems like the Facebooks and the Googles and the MSNBCs and the CNNs. We organized, then perhaps through a vehicle like that we can effect real change in the world. But I guarantee you, as soon as you get another party going, they'll send agent provocateurs in to infiltrate and discredit and cause chaos for that organization. You look at what happened with the Tea Parties. They got infiltrated and they were taken over by more leftist type of people, and boom, Tea Parties went away.
Yeah, now you've got Antifas.
You're replaced by Antifa.
Yeah, I agree with you. So the basic evil will then still be there, and the evil is the few people who want to have all.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
What is your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Detlev? I mean, from your perspective, how do we implement a change that we could really see in the world where people regain their sovereignty and freedoms?
Yeah, I must admit I don't have the final solution, but I see the steps as I mentioned earlier. So first of all, you need to become conscious, and I tell you, it's not more than maximum 5 to 10% of the people in the world are conscious. So that's a far way to go, because only if you're conscious, you are taking responsibility for yourself, for your well-being, for the well-being of the family and so forth, in conjunction with the well-being of everybody, which is almost sounding like a religious idea. And Christianity sort of is a bit like that. But I don't want to emphasize Christianity as such as the religion. But you need to have this ethical base for everybody. And after this has been achieved, then you can start changing things. And the few who are conscious already, like 5 or 10% or growing, they can work together and build something new. And one of the issues certainly is we have to get rid of the fiat system. So the 5 or 10%, let's say, who are awake and conscious at the time, they have to find new ways to deal with each other. So this is not only a nation issue, it is a world issue. And so globalism as such, if it is good for you and me, isn't anything bad. But it should not be controlled by a few who are just taking this as a reason for putting themselves up as gods of the world. So if we as humans are working together, whether you are in Hawaii or in Switzerland or India or somewhere else, that would be the best thing for the world in the end. But there's a long way to build this up, and I don't think we can just do it overnight. So this is a long work. And after that, you can identify, I don't need a Ferrari, I don't need a Maserati. Why would I need one? And if the community says, well, we would like to have a Maserati, then we all buy one, and then everybody can use it. You see what I mean? So the materialism isn't our goal. It can help. It helps us in our daily life and also fulfilling wishes, but it's not the target or the objective which we should achieve. We should achieve a certain level of humankind which is closer to God than closer to materialism as it is currently.
I would agree with that.
That's my general shortcut view.
I would agree. We have to be more spiritually based. I think Michael talks about this.
Yes.
Basically, it's his whole message, and I would agree with that. It starts with us as individuals, but if we're going to change the world, we have to do this on a mass scale. You're right. I think it's going to take time. You and I are not going to achieve that in our lifetime, but we see the results of our work coming to fruition. Around the world, people are waking up, not very quickly, but you're seeing, pushback from the populace in America through the election of Trump. You're seeing the pushback in England, where they voted for the Brexit. And you're seeing it in Germany, where people have voted against the Angela Merkel, and she looks like she's in trouble now. And you see it around the world where people are starting to assert themselves in a more direct fashion. It's slowly coming about. People are slowly waking up, but without a moral compass, I think society will not benefit. So you're right.
Yeah, Michael, what's your point of view?
Well, at the moment, I look at Machiavellian systemic selection of evil, and who runs the infrastructure which we are all subject to. And that is actually a situation which has to be changed. And as I said, in the economic level, we have basically a war of all against all. You have the elbow society, and that is actually all following the evil impulses, the very hellish kind of structures that rules today's world. So basically what I think, you have to really come through a spiritual self-realization model where everybody knows why are they here on earth? What is their purpose? Their purpose is here to become wise, to become a useful entity, to be precious in God's universe, to do some kind of job later, to heighten the consciousness, and to be according to God's plan why he created us. He actually wanted us to be a sort of an angel that is helping him to run the universe. And we are in the kind of apprenticeship of that kind of job we have to do later. But when we don't do our homework, it doesn't come out well. So we have to go on the spiritual process of self-realization. And for that, I think it is also possible. Matt before mentioned that it doesn't work in small communities to create a sort of like a new concept for social life. But I would say it is possible if everybody in the small concept, and if everybody in a small community runs it, that everybody's happy, that everybody feels in its right place, where life has positioned them to do their job. They feel happy with each other. They have in a social, positive interaction with other people, and where their heart is rejoicing to be there every day. They praise their existence and they praise God, basically, and they feel happy in that position. Then I think a lot of people will say, "Oh, what in that community?" Like in the ancient Christian community, they said, "Oh, these people are so happy. I also want to join that community, because why should I have this harsh life and be unhappy all the time and be burdened by all these ills in the world?" So I joined that community and also learned what they have to say. So a small scale transformation from a small community can take place and radiate in the bigger society. So that is my hope. And that is basically a principle which has been working throughout all of history. And I believe in that model because, that's how this whole cosmos is built upon. Built out of love and respect for the other fellow human being. Of course, a little bit, I have to say that everybody should, of course, adhere to ethical and spiritual rules, because if they don't, it won't work.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, that's true. I interviewed a couple of times a guy named Quinn Akers. He started a community where basically it's like communism, I suppose, but where a bunch of folks got together and they work, some acreage to provide for themselves and be self-sufficient with plants and animals that they harvest for themselves. And it's all organic and sustainable, and people pitch in. And I think that's what you're kind of describing, Michael. And I guess you could call it communism. But anyways, because they were successful, the Texas government came in and raided them and destroyed a bunch of stuff. They were trying to do or accomplish what basically you're saying, Michael. And I don't know if that's going to work in the kind of modern world, though, on a larger scale, because the guy in your name. Let's take any neighborhood in America. One guy might be a doctor, the next guy might be a plumber, the next guy might be a mechanic, and they have disparate occupations that they don't really have a means to share with each other their skills. I mean, I don't know how you scale that up to a modern society. If you had a few acres and 10 people, you might be able to pull something like that off. But the attorney that works downtown not going to be interested in working with spending his time dealing with a guy who, say, provides daycare for kids. I don't know how you scale that up.
Well, first of all, I would say I would be careful calling it communism, because I would call it humanism, because the whole Christian setting, the evil cabal has taken the model of the way that Christ was saying, you sell all these things and give it to the poor, that kind of thing. That is coming from a true Christian impulse. It has nothing to do with the later distorted and biased concept of communism. It is simply a cosmic principle that everything belongs to everybody, and everybody is not abusing those kind of things what he has. and that he is sharing it with the other one in a brotherly and sisterly way, that has nothing to do with communism in a way. It is pure Christian. So, or spiritual, you could say. Even in the old Indian times, the rishis were having that kind of social concept. But the Cabal was distorting that into and still used rigid power pyramid, where they try to rule the people. That is not the Christian base of that concept. But I would say yes. But if that element of happiness, if, for instance, that your lawyer you mentioned, he sees that community, how everybody's happy, the children are playing, and they feel a fulfilled life. They feel that they're happy, and that they are creative, and the arts are thriving again, and the music is thriving again, and they're rejoicing, full of life energy. And he is there and fighting with in the court. Then they see it will create a different life model. I'm saying that old model is gone. That elbow society will dissipate when these communities that I described are growing. Then this old model of elbow society of war of all against all, what we have now, that will dissipate. And everybody will be happy to do something and be in service of the other person. And when that other person is happy, he also feels happy, because I made a little bit of something that this person can be happy. And that fills me with joy. And that is that true Christian impulse. I don't see it as communism.
Well, I was describing what Quinn Anchors was doing, because they all equally shared in the work and in the benefit of their work, and it was a community's owned kind of structure versus one person owning it and then distributing the wealth from there. So that to me is why I said communism. But what you're describing is more values and beliefs in good and being good. Now, if your whole basis of that is the Christian model, then you're going to run into a lot of problems trying to convince the rest of the world, who might be Islamics or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever, to change their mind, to adopt your point of view.
Well, I wouldn't say so, because all spiritual religious models have these higher kind of structures, which even in the Hindu community, they have this kind of social mindset that they live in this brotherly way. And even in the Islamic ways, in the spiritual side of the Islamic people, I forgot this denomination of them, but anyhow, they the Alawites, the Alawites, I think they're called. They have basically the same structures. So one should get together on this higher level, not on kindergarten religion, but on a higher university level of religion, so to speak. One could get together and set that role model, and it's basically in service of the creation. That is the true human cause of existence. That's why the humans are here, to create this kind of harmonious interaction between each other, and the rest is disturbing factors.
And this is being hijacked currently by the Pope and all the other religious leaders, because they want to create this NWO one religion idea, but this is not supporting what you just said. This is supporting that we have to believe in Rothschild and others to be the gods. That's what their purpose of one religion is. Basically, you could say one word philosophy or ethical principle or godly principle. That would basically abolish all religions if we all set the same parameters. Or
Yeah, they don't have the welfare of mankind in their position, and that is not their concern. They want their powers, they want to rule over the others via the means of religion. That is their goal. But human destiny and human prosperity and human thriving is not none of their concern. That is the point.
Yeah, and but that's what you said. You said basically we need one ethical, base where everybody can agree to, and then based on that, some sort of religion, if you want to. Based on that, we could build a better society worldwide. Is that what you wanted to say?
It's not a religion; it's spirituality. It's open access towards the higher spiritual existence of the human being. It is basically a communication with God. It's a direct communication with the high. First of all, with God, it's the high set, but with the angels. So basically, with the angeloi. So to have a direct connection with them, because they have a better overview of what humankind should become, and we should be becoming sensitive of their impulses. And through materialism, we have become numb, and in earlier times.
I think we lost Michael.
Lost Michael. Yeah.
I'm back now. Yeah, basically what I said is that we should have conscious interactions with these spiritual beings. So we know the plan of creation and we can be a useful part of this whole thing, not like lice that are, living on this earth like useless beings that don't know our fate and our destiny. So that should be our major concern. And when we are in process of learning about these things, then automatically the social structures will come. For instance, Rudolf Steiner, he said that the threefold social order, he was talking about the threefold social order, that these are role models or models how we can create a better society. These things are there. God has sent his messengers, all over the place, so that his role models are being translated down to the lowest level in this materialistic plane. So people can actually, pick up those role models and build up from there. It could be a staircase to heaven eventually.
But I think the main issue here is that, for instance, yourself, Michael, you've been studying Rudolf Steiner's work, for instance, for centuries now. So you are well advanced in collecting information which may be valid for many people. But they have no access to that because they're not aware of those information materials. And they are not taking their time, and they're not conscious enough to think that this is important for them. So that's our key issue here, as Matt said as well. I mean, information can only be taken in if you're willing to take it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to you, does it, Matt?
Well, yeah, I get Michael's point that we all have to be better, or not better, spiritually aware. I think would be a good term, spiritually aware. And religions, though, won't help you accomplish that, because religions are designed to keep you confined into a belief system that is limited, and it doesn't allow you to think outside of that little box that they present to you. And if you decide that you want to explore outside of the box, then you're a bad person and you should be punished for it. So I think if we were to eliminate religions, you might have a chance of more people, becoming spiritually aware. And I think that naturally is occurring here in the United States, where you see, church attendance and participation drops dramatically. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean people are rushing to become more spiritually aware. It's just that they're deciding that little box is not for them. How do you get people to be more spiritually aware? I don't know. I don't have that answer. But I think you're on the right track, Michael, in saying that people have to be more spiritually aware and more conscious of how they treat others. But like I said, there's always going to be that guy around the corner in his cave with a bigger club than yours, and he's going to come and beat you over the head so you can take your wife and your food. So I don't know. I guess you can be spiritually aware, just get a bigger club than the guy next door.
Well, yeah, I mean the issues are there.
If you're spiritually aware, then you know that this man is around the corner, and if he's on the left side, you go on the right side, and vice versa. That is actually the positive aspect of spirituality in a way.
Yeah, but if it's your neighbor, Michael, this is pretty tough to do because you cannot move your house somewhere else. Not so. So that's the idea with the communities, which you have, Michael, to build communities in order to gather people who are like-minded, who have a certain interest in spiritual awakening or spiritual consciousness, and who are looking for that. And once you have a community like that, then you can build from there. And this is a fruitful issue. But as Matt said, there was a group in the U.S. who was doing this with, the autark trying to be, but the government came and destroyed everything because they are not interested in you and me and us to become a spiritual aware man or woman, right?
Well, yes, that's true. But, look at the whole Roman history. I mean, the Roman emperors, they tried to destroy Christianity 1,000-fold. And still it came up. And were going underground and formed new communities. And when you look back in history, when you look at this outcome of the original Christians, they had a lot of problems that they had through the Roman state. But still, they prospered and they thrived. And it's the same thing. It's a process of gradual transformation. You cannot do it from today to tomorrow. And this malicious neighbor, might be malicious for some time. But then through the overall process of transformation, that's why God created time. Then overall, more and more, he will find out that he's unhappy. Look at these evil people; they're unhappy. They have to look for all kinds of things to satisfy their existence. They are not happy with themselves. They have to run out for outer kicks from this side or that side. So they cannot be happy with themselves. But when you're happy with yourself, that you can say, okay, I'm happy with this universe. I'm in harmony with this universe. And that is the utmost and inner happiness, which can't be replaced with anything from an outer position and from an outer place. So that will go around, and the human soul is designed in such a way, unless he can feel that strength of that happiness within himself and the harmony with himself and the cosmos, that is the utter satisfaction that he can reach. And people know that subconsciously. But they get distracted by the cabal, by this and that, and outside kind of distractions. So once that message gets out, that these communities, they create that inner happiness, then I think there will be people that will run over the fences,
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that, Michael. Because you're always going to have people trying to control others, and you're going to have religious leaders pitting you against each other. You're going to have globalists pitting race against race, political affiliation against political affiliation. They're going to always try to balkanize us and separate us from becoming united. And you see that effort really major display in the United States, where it's the Democrats versus the Republicans now. I mean, it used to be a non-argument. I mean, a false argument where it was just a political show where the Republicans were actually on the same page as the Democrats. They just pretend to fight each other. Now it's because of Trump. The Republicans are having to move more towards his position and align with him, and the Democrats are aligning and showing their cards that they're not for the people. The Democrat Party, for the longest time, as I was growing up, I was always told is the party of the people. They're for the working man, and that's who they represent. They're showing themselves as not being for the American people, not being for the working people of America. They're showing that they're in support of the globalist agenda. So getting people on a equal spiritual playing field is going to be difficult because of the kind of polarities that are being fostered by the globalists. But I do think you're on the right track when you say that people on an individual basis have to be more spiritual. And I think that is where the solution starts. We have to, as individuals, be more spiritual, be respectful of how we treat others, conscious of what we provide to society is good and not detrimental. And as we help plant seeds, I always talk about this, plant seeds in people's minds about things like the New World Order or its elements. We see those seeds come to fruition with the like I said, the election of Trump, with the Brexit. So if we keep doing this in our daily lives and help encourage others to do the same, somewhere down the road, maybe not in our lifetime, but somewhere down the road, maybe we plant enough seeds that turns society around where they vote for someone who will abolish the Federal Reserve and who has enough bodyguards to protect them from getting assassinated. We might have a chance. So I disagree with you on one aspect about everyone becoming of like mind spiritually, because there will always be forces that try to balkanize us, and religions die hard. But I think as on an individual level, we can't help create change by being good humans and then passing that good along to others. Be the light, be a beacon of light, and help share that light.
Yeah, that's a good point. Of course, the cabal will play that divide and conquer, a divided emperor game. That is clear, and they try to distract people. But what does it mean to be a Republican or a Democrat in relation to a fulfilled human being, a cosmic aware human being? I mean, what a price difference. What you get. It's like a golden chalice and sort of like a wooden chalice in place. I mean, with the golden chalice, you're part of the cosmic community. And if you're a Democrat or Republican, what is that worth, compared to that? That is a point. When you become aware that you have a cosmic responsibility and that you're basically a semi-god, that's what the human being is meant to be. He is meant by the God to be created the 10th hierarchy. That means he will eventually evolve into the range of an angel when he's finished with his development, and he has freedom on top, which the other angels, even to the highest seraphim and thrones and whatever you call these different hierarchies, they don't have it to that degree that the human being has this freedom. And that's why evil has been admitted. So he's that human beings don't become lethargic don't go into action to get this evolutionary goal developed. So that's why I think to be human is a very privileged position if we really use it and make the best of it, which of course the evil beings, the resistant beings, God-resistant beings, So
we lost Michael again.
yeah, I'm here. I'm back again. Yeah, basically I was finished.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we will not be able to offer solutions. We can just point out ways to go, because the final solution or the best solution we're still working on, isn't it, Matt?
The solutions are within ourselves. We can take power in our own lives. We can grow gardens if you have the land, or if you don't, you can, if you've got a little tiny apartment, you can grow little herbs or stuff to help, empower yourself in being able to feed yourself. We can stop going to the doctors that give us these pills that make us more sick, so we have to take more pills to cover up the side effects of the pills that they gave us the first time. We can do that. We can stop, watching the corporate controlled media and to spend more time on the internet looking at independent media to get more information, a more rounded education of what really is going on in the world. And we could just spread the word to others, which we probably all, the three of us, do in our own lives, but encourage others to do their own homework, to engage in critical thought and analysis of what's really going on in the world. I know it's difficult for people to grasp. I witness it all the time. Some people just don't like me talking about it because it messes up their worldview. But, years later, they'll come back and say something shocking that I might have mentioned, years ago, that is now true. I remember. I mean, it's just like what they tell us in the corporate media, and that's now being turned around and it's being exposed, like the sanctuary city thing. It wasn't just a couple years ago that they were saying that sanctuary cities don't exist because, that's a conspiracy theory that the Republicans put out, or the conspiracy theory that Alex Jones put out or something. But now, because they've passed sanctuary laws, they're being exposed. And yeah, they're proud of being sanctuary cities now, or in our case in Oregon, sanctuary states, where that was conspiracy theory. Now it's all out in the open. So we're making progress, and people like us are helping to stir the pot and help awaken people. I think the solution, though, as you ask for, Detlev, is within us to be able, like I said, to be those beacons of light and to share that light.
Yeah, true. That's also my point of view, and we're coming up to the end of the show, so we can sort of wrap up possibly in the time being. I think what we're doing, as Matt mentioned, and he's one of us who's done this a very long time ago. When did you start, Matt, with your awakening messages?
Yeah, sure. I've started back in the early 90s, about 1992, I believe, when Windows 3.1 was the operating system offered by Microsoft. I put up a website, one of the first websites, to expose the New World Order, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, Council on Foreign Relations, the Illuminati, common everyday terms now, but that was 25, 26 years ago, and look, now everybody knows who the Illuminati is. Everyone knows that the Federal Reserve is a private bank. Everyone knows about the Bilderberg, to the point where they don't even pay attention to the Bilderbergs anymore. Not that they did back then, but because they weren't aware. Now it's just yesterday's news. So I started like way back in like the 90s. I've seen that my efforts come to bear fruit, so to speak, in that we got Trump elected, and people are waking up and electing people who are Trump-like nowadays. I think we continue this, but yeah, I've been at this a long time.
Yeah, and I'm next year we will be 10 years since I started this Wake News media platform. 10 years of of hard work, really, I must say, and it shows.
Congratulations!
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's next year, but nevertheless, we have certain success. And that's what I'm saying, that there are growing numbers of people who are waking up, even from people you would not expect. So I do have certain, meetings with people, and they are talking about things I was very astonished that they're even thinking about it, and they know this. But there are lots of people who know this, but who are still afraid of being then in the wrong group if they talk about it. You see, that's the group thinking. That's a psychological issue, which you mentioned, Matt. People want to belong to a successful group or a big group or a huge group, and the ones who are now starting the awakening process are still too small to identify with for them, possibly. So we have success. And Michael, you are awake also quite some time, right?
Yes, basically, that time I was in Sacramento in the foundation year of the Rudolf Steiner College. And there I got to know about the Illuminati. That was in the early 1980s. So then, from then on, I got to know about the secret societies like the Jesuits, the Freemasons, and their different kind of denominations. And I found out that I was really shocked in the beginning because, of course, like everybody gets to know all these unfair kind of conditions and that how they screw over the whole society. That was very shocking to me in the beginning. But, over the years, I got to know how they work and that the positive powers are also there. And I I felt courageous enough to talk to people, to expose them, and also to tell them about the other positive aspects of the cosmos, of the angelic beings, of God, of the Christ, and of all these other good beings, which are actually helping and giving a lending hand to human beings that are really honestly and rightfully wanting to go on the right path. So whenever I met somebody through conversations and so forth, and I was telling people about these issues when I felt that there is a basic interest. So that was my way of the continuous studying of these things. That was my way of dealing with that problematic.
So yeah, that's a huge investment of time, energy, which all of us have put into that. And we are expecting from our neighbors or next door people to be alert and alarmed and informed within a very short period of time. That is most probably not happening. So they also need their time. But there will be an awakening, I'm absolutely sure. And the good thing is, from my point of view, is that we have, not just we three, but everybody who's in this awakening scene and this reporting about it and informing people, that we have gathered so much information and also solution objectives that those fellow human beings can participate more quickly than we had the chance to. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think though, if it's going to happen in our lifetime, there'll have to be some kind of catalyst, some kind of defining moment where people are forced to wake up. And I think the New World Order might just give us that in a false flag attack. I mean, the easiest one to fire people up will be just to drop a bomb on Israel and say, okay, it was the Arabs that did this, and people are going to wake up to that. Though I think that might be, I don't know, divisive as well, because you would they would try to divide the Muslim world against the rest of the world, and I think if that happens, hopefully people can see past that. There's going to have to be some kind of major event to catalyze, make people wake up, some kind of catastrophe of some sort.
Yeah, maybe you're right. You may be right. Whatever it will be. Well, we've got lots of topics to talk about next time, which will be in January, by the way, because we will have a break here in December. So our next live show on UnitedWeStart Roundtable discussion will be the 12th of January. So until then, you are able to listen to all our shows if you go to our UnitedWeStart.org website, and you can listen to our various podcasts and also archives and so forth, and also not in form of a video like YouTube on our YouTube channel. So yeah, we are coming to the end, and maybe everybody can formulate his final thoughts for this show and for this year. Matt?
Yeah, sure. Hey, first I wanted to say thank you, Detlev, for hosting these roundtables for us and producing for us. I know it's a lot of work and involved, so I appreciate you doing that. And I think it's a worthy effort that we continue to do the work that we started with UnitedWeStrike.com. Our whole effort was to unite the world against a new world order and withhold our support of it. And I think we should continue encouraging that. So, I'm happy to spend time with you here and Michael, and usually with Alan. It's always good to share our ideas and discuss in a logical fashion, an adult fashion, and not bicker amongst ourselves our different ideas. And going into next year, I hope and pray that we see improvements in what happens in America, because as America goes, the rest of the world will go. So if Trump can expose the criminality of the Clintons and get that into the public sphere, I think that'll really help to awaken people, and hopefully he stays alive, and we continue on that path. I would encourage everyone going into the holiday season to really take some time to reflect on what really is affecting your world and how you might improve it, and spend time with your friends and family, because they're the ones that count in this world. They are the ones that matter for us in this world, and so share your love with them and share your thoughts and ideas, and encourage them to think critically and ask questions. We used to say, ask why, don't wait. How do I go? Ask why, don't comply. Wait. How do you go, Detlev? Don't buy, ask why. Don't buy, ask why, don't comply. That's what we used to say. Continue to do that. Don't give your support to the globalist, and continue asking questions and help others to grow. And I would encourage that over this coming season. And we'll see you guys again in January. My website is nworder.com. Go to the podcast archive page. It's a library of information you'll find very valuable.
Thank you very much, Matt. Michael?
Yes, as I said before, if you are concerned about the well-being of other fellow human beings, then this whole crisis of people moving to another place, of immigrants and immigrants, that doesn't happen, because everybody's happy where they are. If they have a good living existence, and when they have a self-fulfilled life in their place, this whole immigrant issue, this immigrant problematic problematic issue will dissipate. So that is only one aspect, and that is a thousandfold of these kind of results that will happen, which we now have world structures by the evil infrastructure when we are on this transforming process of metamorphosis of our own inner soul life. It will have an impact, a tremendous impact of how we are socially structured and how the whole world will be structured. And even it will have an effect of the animals. They become less wild. They become more like it is described in a paradise, like the lion and the calf and the sheep will graze next to each other. And we have to be aware of that kind of impulse, that we can make this world a paradise, but we can also make it a hell. We can make it a hellhole. So it's in our hands. And so I will try to get everybody's attention to change their everyday's lives, start with small things, how they behave with other fellow human beings, with their spouses, with their children. And when we all do that, this world, as a result, will automatically become a better place. And it was nice to discuss with you guys. Next time, Alan will be present in January. And I'm looking forward to meet you guys again.
Yeah, thank you a lot. Thanks a lot, Michael. And I will make it short. So if you're interested in our work here, visit our websites, wakenews.tv or wakenews.net, and many other blogs and channels we have. To come and join us. And I do thank all of you. And as we usually do, Matt, give us the countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Death to the new world order.
Yeah.
We'll see you all again next year.
Yeah, see you all again. And we will listen now to some music. And we will be rebroadcasting the show of today right after. So stay tuned. Seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Join UnitedWeStart, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Just like it's my friend. manufactured life, to sell my soul just to survive. Yes, in a game of numbers, I must thank the gods of industry for the opportunity, or I display such loyalty, yes, oh, for the way they exploit me. Oh, to consider life outside of this just like a splintering. My mind persists, but the ministry